much for staying. This is our third preview, so it's also really, really great to have an amazing audience to help us explore the show. We're still working, still making changes. Different things happened tonight, which was great. I'm Emily, I'm the director of the show, I'm the co-writer. It was great. Wendy?
It's getting me a bit.
Sorry, well, that sums up our collaboration, pretty much. So I'm joined by Ioli, the movement director. Kate, Jazz, and Hannah, our fabulous creatures. Why don't I start by summing up a little bit about the project, and then I'd love to hear your questions and answer your questions. So Fabulous Creatures started as an idea many years ago. This is quite nice telling you about him. Watch the carpet. Please. Please. So I first spoke to Quentin about Fabulous Creatures, like, it wasn't Fabulous Creatures back then, but this idea of the monsters only 8 months ago. So it's pretty much a miracle that we are sitting here after having watched it on a stage, and I'm really impressed and grateful. I grew up in Athens, I am Greek, so the monsters and the audience in general has been a huge source of inspiration throughout the years. But what's really exciting about exploring the monsters and reinventing their stories is that they are so inspiring and empowering, and not just evil creatures, more than just a metaphor. But what's really interesting about this project is the collision of the different genres, the different styles, and that's something I'd love for you to tell me more about. The cabaret, the myths, the epicness, the tragedy, the movement, the songs, the music. I know there was a lot there, and this wasn't the idea. This wasn't an idea from the start. It kind of, we kept adding and adding and building and building, and it ended up being this hybrid of a show, this hybrid of a play, so much more than just a play. There are a lot of themes we wanted to touch, a lot of questions we wanted to ask. So this is why I want to hear your questions, and feel free to ask anyone from us. It doesn't have to be a question, it could be a statement. There was something that you didn't like, you didn't understand. We've got 2 or 3 more previews until press night, so help us make this a better show. Anybody?
Hi, I do have a question. Hi, my name is Kyle. So, of course, you mentioned that, it's obvious the play is inspired by Greek mythology and the Oresteia trilogy. And I'm from Malta, so a lot of these figures are very familiar in our history, just like with different names, but it's nice seeing these familiar characters. My question is for you, Emily, and it's slightly controversial, but in a time when I think the UK is kind of turning its back on Europe, how important is it for you to tell like Greek stories, Mediterranean stories, European stories?
Yeah, even more so. So I moved to London 10 years ago, and this is where I met Ioli, who's also Greek. And we met 9 years ago. We started working together 9 years ago. Ioli's actually moving back to Greece tomorrow. And in a way, Ioli urged me to do something Greek. I've been avoiding it. I've been worried to be pigeonholed as the Greek director doing Greek stuff. But for many years, I didn't want to do that. And I think we had this chat last summer, and we were talking about what should we do next. And she was like, I think it's time. And it was such a gift, because I mean, I can't deny the connection I have with these characters, and how much I care about reinventing those stories is huge. Like night after night, I've been sitting in this auditorium and watching these incredible actors telling these stories. And I remember when I was 13 and I was reading the Odyssey at school and learning about these stories, and I remember feeling so confused about why should I hate Curtis and why should I admire Penelope, for example. Like the stereotypes and how easy it was for a 13-year-old girl at the time to be told, oh, be like Penelope, and not be like, don't be like Cersei, or don't be like Scylla, who does still mean bitch in Greek. So it means a lot, and I feel like one of the things I love about London, and I still want to believe that it is true, is that London is a city where all these stories have a place, and that I hope that this won't change. So, yeah.
Thank you.
There was one more question.
What's your main source material that you were using for this? You mentioned the Odyssey, but I imagine there's a bit of Aristophanes in there.
Basically, sources. There are a lot of sources.
There are a lot of sources. Yeah, there's the Odyssey is the main one, obviously, and yeah, the Odyssey is kind of woven through, and then we kind of depart from it. And then there are the tellings of the myths. So with the myths, I mean, I'm talking to lots of Greek people here, so you can correct me. But the myths, there are different versions of them. So in some cases, we've kind of cherry-picked, which are the most interesting for our story that we want to tell. So there are different versions of the myths we've used. The Oresteia is a big one. So there's stuff from, especially the Eumenides, the last one, where like the Judgment of Clytemnestra. Quite a lot of the lyrics from the song at the end are from that. And then there's also Shakespeare, like the appearance of the ghost. That was also that was a Hamlet. There's Hamlet in there as well. So yeah, lots of different sources, and like a blend, like the hybrid, like Emily was saying earlier, is definitely like.
But book 12 was the starting point. Book 12 from the Odyssey was the starting point, because that's where the monsters appear one after the other, trying to kill Odysseus.
Yeah.
So that was the starting point, and then after that.
And it's a kind of throwaway line in the show, but like the idea of them not even being a whole chapter. Like when, it's funny, like Emily, saying like she had this idea about this assassin's agency with the Sirens and Scylla and Charybdis. So I went and I looked at the Odyssey and I was like looking through it, and I was like looking through it. Where are they? And it's like chapter 12, and then they're like a really small part of chapter 12. So it's like, yeah, this is a way of like making them full story as well.
Yeah, and actually, what it really inspired me to start talking about that is was reading Madeline Miller's Circe. That was like a novel that literally changed how I perceive Greek mythology. It's really interesting that it was by an American author. Like the way she reinvented Circe's story and backstory and source of trauma, like just blew my mind. And that was the starting point.
Sorry, can you?
Circe by Madeline Miller. It's a novel.
Okay.
And a song.
If you're friends with Emily for a week, she's going
Oh.
to give to you.
My first thing.
Because it inspired me and empowered me so much. So much.
You're not scared.
I was just wondering why you picked Clytemnestra to be the kind of femme fatale model, because there are a lot of like amazing evil women in the
That wasn't the first pick. Like the very first version had Penelope. So we kind of thought, okay, what if we stick to the universe of the Odyssey, and that Penelope was actually the one that didn't want Odysseus to come back and tried to kill him on his way. But then there were a lot of reasons why we dropped that idea. I think there's something about Clytemnestra that scares me and inspires me a lot, and we've been talking a lot about Clytemnestra for many different projects. The project we did last summer as well with Leonie again was about Clytemnestra. There's something about her motives being so complex about killing Agamemnon, but then she's so tragedies and people and stories are so easy to define her as just an evil woman or just a killer. So I think that ultimately that was what worked, and it made sense to involve her in the monstrous cabaret.
I'm going to ask some of the actors if you want to talk a bit about how it was for you taking on these characters from Greek mythology and that kind of rehearsal process and how it evolved.
I will start. Hi everyone, I'm Chaz. So for me, I think I have sort of like a tertiary understanding of like Greek mythology, mostly from like Percy Jackson. That's what and so I have I think most of us who make a joke about the play just think that Siren is a mermaid or some related being. And so it was really interesting to go back to the original text for to build from there, because I think that's a luxury in a lot of ways, to have an entire world that has been studied and researched and rethought and retold to pick from and pull from, but then also we have loads of creative liberty, as you can imagine. And so I think that was really that sort of started for me. And also we were lucky that we had an amazing team who sent us resources to start understanding these characters more than even a few months before we started. So we had, I'll just give a shout out to Kosti, who isn't here, who's our assistant director, and Jess, who sent loads of research to us. So we had loads to parse through, and Emily and the rest of the team were so kind in letting us kind of pick and choose what we wanted to keep and what we wanted to let go to build the people that you saw, the monsters that you saw on stage today. So yeah, that's me.
I remember when I auditioned for the play, I at the time was like, oh my god, I hope I don't get the dog. How the hell do you play a six-headed dog? What do you do? And lo and behold, I'm now absolutely obsessed with Skylar. I think she's wonderful. But similarly to Jazz, my background is acting, but also cabaret and burlesque. So the moment I was I think Skylar is that kind of character that's studied for 3 years in Berlin, is making this really quite psychedelic-y performance art piece, and I think that's her vibe. And then it all kind of made sense. But I think it is sort of a really beautiful invitation in a rehearsal room to play and to try stuff out and just go large, and then sort of slowly start to pick and pull pieces together. I think also the costumes are fantastic, and they really help access components of these characters that we're playing. With Clytemnestra, again, I'm absolutely obsessed with her. I think she's magical. Similarly to the Circe book, there's another amazing book called Clytemnestra by a writer called Kosti something, and I listened to that, the audiobook of it, and it's absolutely phenomenal, and it gives a whole offering of her entire life, from child to when she murders Agamemnon, and the journey of her life and her character arc is so brilliant, and it offers this sort of perspective on why she gets to the place that she gets to. I also watched Kill Bill. I found that really helpful. But yeah, just a big old mishmash of loads of different sources, which was really, really, really beautiful and really fun.
Yes. I also was a bit overfaced by playing a whirlpool. How am I going to do that? Then everyone was so much braver than me, and I thought, well, I'll give that a go, and it made it a lot easier. But I think I kind of, maybe foolishly, but kind of always have approached characters being how do I bring them to me? And actually I really need to drag myself up to the whirlpool in this one, but I think when I was auditioning, I really remember being I feel perpetually through my life I have felt monstrous for a number of reasons. I think being born and raised as a woman,
and being anything other than outside of what the social norms dictate a woman to be, can feel extremely violent and very monstrous. And so it moved me very much to be able to have this collection and celebration of that through tales that need to be retold. And also this, like, you know, these tales are littered with like assault and pillaging and all kinds of horrific things. And I was like, let's not make it like trauma porn, because we have enough of that. So it's really nice to be like that all lives and resides within it, and buzzes within these characters, and that's what fuels it and allows you to just have fun and be gloriously monstrous. Yeah, that's my answer.
Any other questions?
I just really love the carpets. I was wondering.
We are setting it up.
I was just wondering if you could talk about like how you came to design the set and like what the decisions were behind it.
Can we have costumes also to that question?
Yeah,
Because they were
amazing.
Well, obviously our incredible designer isn't here, but the design process started a long time ago. Like I love to work with designers from the start because of the costumes being such an important, and the set being such an important part of the process. The idea was that the carpet creates, well, kind of brings that texture of blood because of the colour, but also that kind of softness, the coziness of their home, like this is their home, and kind of contrast with the concrete floors and the brick walls and that kind of, is their home, is it a prison, is it a cell, what is it? As for the shape, we kind of, well, I'll let you see what the shape is, but yeah, a couple of different things. But the idea is that it's almost as if I wanted it to feel like vomit. So when we were talking about it with Ismini, the designer, we were talking about it not being straight, not being predictable. So that's the story of the carpet.
It's also worth saying that it's not like massive shout out to Ismini because it's really not an easy script to design. Like in the script there's bits like, you know, Skinner walks out with 6 dog heads and you know, I just sort of gave that and so yeah, there are loads of bits like that, and actually like I think all of the creative team, like the lighting and the sound, like all of those things like make this thing come alive. And like when we were writing it we were like, cool, we'll put that in there and see what happens. And especially for me, because I wasn't directing, I just wrote it and it was like, you know, hopefully this looks good, and then like the thing that they've done is like is incredible. So yeah, massive shout out to it.
Yes.
I would like to ask about the movement as well. So how did you make decisions, or how did you develop the movement?
It's okay. After the camera.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I felt the same. I was like, what, Skilla and Whirlpool and, okay, Siren. Great. So we had a lot of conversations about, the style, because also we go through many different styles, and shout out to the actors, because it's so difficult to hold the whole of Act 1 and this kind of very extroverted cabaret, communicating with the audience, and then the shift into a different style, where we had like what we call a fourth wall, and we were wondering if that's going to work. So I think it was also interesting to explore how these creatures are in their everyday life or when they're not performing. But we wanted to keep the heart of the characters there. And I like to work in a very collaborative way, so what I mean is I come into the room and I look at the people who are there, so it's not about coming with a set idea of we're going to do like this. Sometimes I have an idea, might work, but then it's about what creative juices people bring into the room and then working from there and putting it together. So if it would be different people, it would say that again it was a collaborative process of me coming in with some ideas and then the actors saying, oh, why don't we try this, and then kind of piecing everything together. But now someone said to me when we went outside, it's like, because also they are immortal and they've lived throughout history, so I think also elements of the choreography were looking at different styles of dance and throughout history because they have seen it all, so taking elements from various dance forms.
Who wrote your music, and how did you make musical decisions in terms of style? And because there was a lot of range in style and sound and type and all of that as well. So I just
Yeah. So when Quentin had the idea about the cabaret, because I was like, it has to be an assassin's agency. Yeah, but what if they're in a cabaret? So that initial conversation really scared me because of how important their music and movement, dance would be. But then obviously it became more and more interesting as we kept discussing it, and that's when we started talking also with the composer, who is a Greek-based composer called Irini Skylakaki. So I've worked with her before in the past, so we already had a really great working relationship. And what we did is created a Spotify playlist and started putting references of songs ranging from PJ Harvey to Bjork, St. Vincent, like all sorts of references. And that ended up being a really long playlist that has kept us company throughout the rehearsal process. Well, it's online. You can find it on our Facebook and Instagram page if you're curious. But that's how it started, and then we kind of started assigning songs from these references to characters and to scenes, and that created the basis of each character and how each character would sound, their voice, their musical elements. But then also music was going hand in hand with movement because of Charybdis, for example, being a whirlpool and a sea monster. So then the water element was a really important part of that, for example, or the bird element. So characterization went hand in hand with the movement, the music references. And then the whole idea is that we didn't want it to be musical. Not because I just thought that it was more interesting if it was this hybrid of a play with music, a play with songs, rather than musical full stop. And then the really challenging also part of the process is what happens to the music after Act 1? Because then you can't have Act 1, which is full of sound, full of music, and then what? Emptiness. So we kind of tried to work around that and tried to find ways where the music would transform into something else in Act 2 or 3 and then in the epilogue, so that it also kind of, the journey of those characters was clear. The cabaret is really, it's the Trojan horse. Like, we want the audience to feel, okay, yeah, great, we're part of this space, part of this show, and then we go backstage and we realize, oh, wait a minute, so there's something else, and then we go into Clytemnestra's house, and so it's kind of, music like was a way in to these characters, and then it transformed into something else, something darker.
Can I say something to that? Because I know there are a few creators in. I think one thing about Emily and we've been working together for 10 years and 9. And Irini, we worked twice. So the amazing thing is that we really constantly bounce off of each other. So Irini watches the music, the movement that comes back with the music idea. I come with the music idea. So and then Emily has all this, like, piecing it together. So, and she's very open to having us, the creative freedom is incredible, which means it's not the type of director who says we're going to do this and that. So it's just an amazing process of things are being born in the process rather than ideas that come from from somewhere else. Yeah.
Maybe one more question?
Just a comment, I'm very grateful you did not make it into musical.
Yeah, this is for Hannah specifically. How did it feel to portray such a strong female character, especially with you being non-binary?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. Thank you. I think, yeah, when I came into audition, that was like one of the first things we spoke about, because there's no denying, like, the body one is born in. And I think that the female experience is utterly fascinating. I am obsessed with women. Oh my God, don't make any assumptions. No, but as in, like, their stories are so rich. Like, the history of these underserved women is, like, so exciting to participate in. And obviously, even though she's a female monster, she's still a monster. And I think she's liberated from a lot of what society deems to be a woman, and that's really delightful to play. But also, the joy of being genderqueer is I'll play them all. So honestly, if anyone wants to hire me, I can do any gender. I hate that. Anyway. But yes, I think also we had some really beautiful discussions where I was like, oh, this costume is very dysphoric, or I don't like this, or it doesn't feel right. And I think the beauty is just having a space where people will openly hold that for you. And that is what every room should be like. So, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, it's important that the man speaks as well.
Yes,
I just wanted to add to that.
You won't have a microphone.
I just wanted to say that when Hannah came in, and we were talking about transness, and they mentioned that as something that they connected to in the character, and that really, for me, that really opened my eyes to the possibility of the whirlpool, and it made it like a more exciting thing to explore. The female character, but something about the whirlpool that opens it out, and that it was a moment of, like, obviously we were interested in gender, but that was a moment that was like, oh yeah, we can tell a new story here, and we can, like, these stories can remain relevant and can, like, yeah, we're still telling interesting stories here with these old stories, so yeah.
That's very true. Wish I'd said that.
You said I love women.
I did say I love women. I'll say again, I love women.
Well, thank you everyone so much for being here. Join us at the bar for more questions. Tell your friends to come and watch the show. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.